My name is Clara Bennett. I'm 32 years old. And 3 weeks ago, at my father's retirement party, he stood in front of 200 people, smiled, and said something that changed my life forever. But before I tell you what he said, let me ask you something. Have you ever sat in a room full of people while someone you loved turned you into a joke? Not strangers, not enemies, family. If you've ever felt that, stay with me, because this story might hit closer than you expect. Now picture this: a luxury country club ballroom, crystal chandeliers, champagne everywhere, people in designer suits pretending to care about each other. My father stood on stage, confident, respected, admired. He started introducing his family one by one. His wife. Applause. His son. Standing ovation. Then, he looked at me, smiled, and said, "And this is my daughter Clara. No degree, no direction, just living off the family." The room exploded with laughter. 200 people, laughing, at me. I didn't cry. I didn't react. I just picked up my glass, smiled, and said, "This is the last time any of you will ever see me." And I walked out. The room went silent. But that wasn't the moment everything changed. That was just the beginning. Before I take you further, tell me in the comments, if you were in my place, what would you have done? Would you stay? Would you fight? Or would you walk away like I did? Because 12 years before that moment, my life was already decided for me. I grew up in a family that looked perfect from the outside. Big house, luxury cars, private schools. But inside, I was invisible. Not abused, not screamed at. Just ignored. My stepbrother got everything: praise, opportunities, attention. I got leftovers. And when I was 20, they made it official. My father called me into his office, said the family had to make sacrifices. But the sacrifice was me. They pulled me out of college, not because they couldn't afford it, but because they chose not to. They invested in my stepbrother instead. That day, something inside me broke. But something else woke up. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just left. And here's a question for you. Have you ever realized in one single moment that no one is coming to save you? That was mine. I moved to a tiny apartment, worked minimum wage, lived on cheap food. But I was free. And freedom, even when it hurts, is powerful. I worked during the day, studied at night, learned everything I could. No degree. No support. Just discipline and silence. And slowly, I built something. Something no one saw coming. 4 years later, I started my own consulting company. Small, quiet, invisible. Just like I used to be. But this time, invisibility was my advantage. No one knew it was mine. No one knew I existed in that world. And then, something ironic happened. My biggest client became my father's company. Yes, the same man who said I had no future was depending on me to run his business. He just didn't know it. For 3 years, I built his success from the shadows. And then came the retirement party. The night he humiliated me. The night everything changed. Because when I walked out of that room, I already knew what I was going to do next. Let me ask you something again. If someone spent years treating you like nothing, and one day you held the power to change their entire life, would you use it? Or walk away? Because I had that choice. And I made a decision. The next morning, I sent a letter. Not emotional, not dramatic, just business. A 30-day termination notice, ending the contract that was keeping his company alive. No insults, no revenge language, just facts. But inside that envelope, I added something else. A second letter. Personal. It said, "You told the world I had no future. The company you rely on is mine. I built it without you. This is a boundary. Don't contact me again." And I signed it, Clara Bennett. The name he tried to erase. Within hours, my phone exploded. Calls, messages, panic. They finally understood. Not who I was, but what I meant. And a few hours later, they showed up at my office. Desperate. The same people who once ignored me were now asking for my attention. Funny how that works, right? We sat in a glass conference room. They looked different, smaller, weaker. My father didn't yell. He didn't insult me. For the first time in my life, he apologized. But not because he meant it. because he needed something, and that changes everything. So I asked him one question. If I didn't have something you needed, would you still be sorry? He didn't answer, because we both knew the truth. And here's where the story takes a turn most people don't expect. I didn't destroy them. I didn't expose them publicly. I didn't humiliate them back. I simply walked away. Because real power isn't loud. It doesn't need revenge. It just removes itself. And when I did that, everything collapsed on its own. Their company started failing. Clients left. Reputation fell apart. Not because I attacked them, but because they lost the one thing they underestimated. Me. And here's something I want you to really think about. Sometimes the most painful revenge is not doing anything at all. Just letting people face the consequences of how they treated you. Months later, I got the final truth, something that changed everything I thought I knew. My mother had left money for my education, enough to secure my future, and my father used it. For someone else. That's when it finally made sense. It was never about money. It was never about sacrifice. It was about choice. They chose, not me. And for the first time in my life, I stopped asking why. Because the truth is, some people don't need a reason to overlook you. They just do. And your job is not to convince them otherwise. It's to leave. I built a life after that. A real one. Not easy, but mine. I went to therapy. I healed. I grew. And I realized something important. Walking away from family doesn't feel like victory. It feels like grief. But also, freedom. Both at the same time. So let me ask you one last question. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace or choosing yourself? Because that choice changes everything. If you're still here, thank you for listening. And if this story felt even a little familiar, just know this. You are not what they said you were. You never were. And one day, you won't need them to see your worth. Because you'll already know it. And when that day comes, everything changes.